But since I did executions last time for Danganronpa 1, I'll do it again now for Danganronpa 2. What I'll say about SDR2s is that they are so fucking goofy that it's kind of hard to take any of them seriously. So I'm just gonna rank these. I'm not counting Junkos. Or Monami. Jesus Christ. I'm just gonna do what I did last time and just rank them by number. Now, how this is even gonna work, because how I based them last time was, like, how impactful they were, and, like, visually, and, you know, just, like, overall, what the best one was. I already know what number 1 is. Like, it's the other ones I'm trying to figure out. I think Mikan's is gonna have to go last, because she literally just gets flown off into the sunset. It's kind of boring. The only absurd thing about Mikan's is that it's a giant arm, so there's nothing really much to it. Like, she's a nurse. They couldn't have thought of anything more to do with her than just flying her off into the sunset. Like, I don't know, I feel like there could have been some other, I know, like, there could have been so many gruesome things because she's a nurse. And I guess they didn't really want to go that route. They wanted to keep it kind of goofy, because SDR2's whole execution list is just goofy executions. Like, it's a complete tone shift from the first one. And then the third one is a 180 harshness from the goofiness, but Mikan's has to be last. I think it's definitely dead last. Instead, for such a good character, like, such a weak execution. All right. Ooh, okay. Number 4. Oh, this is hard because I'm torn between Pekos and Gundams. I'm going, oh god, this, because they give off the same emotional feel where Fuyuhiko comes in and tries to stop Pekos' execution, but ultimately it does nothing. So, like, it's very heartfelt and, like, it really hits you in the feels. Meanwhile, Gundams is also the same, and, like, it's a lot more personal for me because I love Gundam. He took care of animals, so, like, that just stings so hard. And then just the Devas being left and, like, to be taken care of by Sonya. It has that same kind of feel. But I think visually, I hate to do this, but I think Gundams is 4. Because it is just a stampede, and, like, it does hit me in the feels, but from, like, an unbiased perspective, it's not as visually impressive as Pekos. Pekos, like, that whole battle scene, and she's, like, fighting it, and then Fuyuhiko comes in and gets his eye, like, slashed in. I think visually it's way more impressive and way more memorable because Fuyuhiko has to wear an eye patch throughout the rest of the game. I just think that one sticks out way more than Gundams does, unfortunately. But they are so close on, like, the emotional scale of the execution. Even though Terrors isn't emotional, this man got honeyed and feathered to be a chicken and then deep fried in a volcano. Not only is that absurd and goofy, can you imagine how painful that is? Just, like, slowly dying because you're melting from the lava and you already got humiliated by looking like a chicken? And that's the first execution in the game, so it just sets the tone of, like, where can it go from here? Because none of the executions in the first game are dropping someone in lava. I think Teru has to take number 2 because of just how visually absurd it is. Realizing this man just got deep fried. And not just by, like, a fryer, but by a volcano. You could argue Pekos is second. Like, if it was purely emotional, then yeah, Pekos would be number 2 and Gundams would be 3. But I think just the pure absurdist and goofiness of it, and being super, like, hooking you into, like, oh god, what is gonna come else after it? I think it deserves number 2. As much as people don't like Teru and are like, yay, he got executed, you gotta take a step back and be like, where? This is the tone for the execution? And then number 1 has to be Chiaki's. It is the most elaborate execution, by far the most emotional of this game, and maybe of all time. Because this isn't even her first execution. You gotta think about that as well. At the time, it was. But in hindsight, this is her second time getting executed. Chiaki's has to take the cake. That Tetris, I think that sits in a lot of people's minds as, like, one of the most memorable executions. Because Chiaki just kind of has this chance while she's running away, but it's inevitable. And then she dies by a f***ing Tetris block. Because she just sits there just waiting and waiting, and then the Tetris block just falls down. Even if I'm not high on Chiaki as a character, as most are, dude, that execution was wild. And it being, like, the final one, it really just, like, you sit there with it until V3 comes out. And then knowing after the Danganronpa 3 anime came out, oh god, this was her second time going through something like this. It's like, wow. Yeah, you could easily move 2, 3, and 4 around, but objectively, I think Chiaki's is the best and Miyakon's is the weakest. I can't even say the worst, it's just weakest.